Grafton Information Technology Committee is hereby called to order. And I'll make my usual pre-meeting announcement pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, as amended by Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022. This meeting of the IT Committee is being conducted with remote participation by committee members and members of the public, should we have any public attendance here. Remote participation by the public for the public comment agenda item and any other matter for which the committee allows public participation will be via the Zoom raise hand feature. If you raise your hand on Zoom, you will be enabled at an appropriate point to enter the meeting via voice or video to make a comment or ask a question. And please identify yourself by name and address if you are doing so. And as we are remote, every vote will be taken by roll call. And I will proceed with a roll call of the committee members. Alan Baker.
Here.
Bob Hassinger.
I'm here.
Amar Clark.
Here.
And Bob Carroll.
Here.
All righty. We have a full, all the members of the committee are present, and we have our invited guest, Mr. William Blake. How did that come out, William Blake? That's weird.
Oh, no, that's a new one. Never heard that one before.
And yes, so proceeding with our meeting agenda, our first agenda item is public input. And if there is a member of the public here who wishes to speak on a matter that is not already on the committee's agenda, now would be the time to raise your hand and speak. And seeing no raised hands, we'll proceed with the next agenda item, which is listed here as update from town administrator. I'm assuming that Mr. Blake is able to speak for the town administrator for any general updates that he might wish to bring to the committee's attention.
I could. Mr. Broussard did not give me any general updates to bring to the committee. So got nothing for you at the moment.
Is there anything you can say about the status of the IT Services RFP?
Yes, so that is, the RFP itself is done. We have been talking to our current IT consultant, CMD, about getting an asset inventory put together, which is taking just a little bit longer than anticipated. We estimate that we'll be able to get the RFP out the door within the next, 5 to 10 days or so.
Oh, excellent.
So, so with it being 5 to 10 days, how does that change the schedule as far as when looking to wrap it up? Because originally that was timed for around that point in August. I assume that pushes it out towards what, September or what?
Yeah, at this point, we're probably mid-September, depending on when we get the asset inventory. It's entirely possible that we'll get it first thing Monday morning, and that will, keep us a little bit closer to being on track.
All right, thank you.
Okay, with that was, if anything, the one information update I was particularly interested in hearing from staff here. So we're making progress in that. We will expect to hear more about that at our next meeting or sooner. If there's anything that you, William, or Evan need from us in between meetings, let us know, and we can pull together a special meeting if need be.
Can I ask a quick question? Primarily the two main things I was just curious about, if you know anything on the migration to Office 365, since last we heard that there was going to be a lot more stuff done this month on that. Do you know if there's anything, if we've been able to make progress with that?
I don't have any of the nitty-gritty details. I know that there are still plans to migrate to Office 365.
Okay. And do you have any information as far as the security camera piloting? Because I believe we're at the end of that time period. I just was curious if we know how that proof of concept worked out, if it looks like something that is tenable that we're going to go with.
Do you mean the security camera that we put up right by the entrance for the town clerk?
Yeah, the municipal center on the town clerk box. We're using that as a pilot to see if how that cloud solution worked.
So I don't have an update from Candy. I do have a meeting scheduled with that company for Monday to discuss the cameras. So I'll have some more information then.
All right, fair enough. I understand that Evan didn't give you anything to come with, so I appreciate what you do know. Thank you.
Yep, you know, and just everything's still moving forward. It's just sort of a busy week, I guess, for some of the vendors we're dealing with. So.
Okay, then our next agenda item, which is why Evan made William attend this meeting, right, William?
I wasn't made to attend. I came to see all of your bright shining faces.
Ah, that's a good way to put it. So anyway, the agenda item is the redesign of the town's website. So William is here to tell us, presumably whatever he is willing and able to tell us about where that is, what's going on, and where it's going.
Yeah, so at this point, we are well into the actual content migration from the old website to the new website. That started on July 25th. So we worked with all of our departments, and we sent out emails to the people who have access to the website to make sure that the proper information has been retained, highlighted, so that way it actually gets brought over. And right at the moment, last I heard, Civic Plus is making their way through all of the town departments, moving over agendas, minutes, documents, things like that, and then they'll move to boards and committees. Previously, I had sent over the wire frame for the website, as well as the mood board that gives the overarching color scheme for the site. Next Tuesday, on the 9th, I have a meeting with Civic Plus again, where I anticipate getting the demo live link to the homepage that will actually be, you know, interactable, so you can see how the site is going to function. And then as soon as we get that, figure out everything they've done, another email will be sent to this committee.
So when will we be able to see something? I'm not sure what.
Next week.
Sometime next week, we'll get email that'll let us see.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And that will be, you know, you'll be able to interact with it, but that will not be the final product. That'll just be the proof of concept. This is what we're thinking. This is how it's going to work. You know, look at all these pretty buttons you can click.
Well, it's I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob. I didn't mean to.
No, you know that I'm very interested. Go ahead.
So I'm curious about what the scope of the demo link is going to be. Is it primarily going to be one of seeing the UI, or is it going to also be able to give the opportunity for us to see what improvements have been made for the search engine, utilizing tagging within the documents themselves, and the ability to functionally find content on the website? Will we be able to tell that from this demo, or is that going to be a later thing that we'll be able to look at once more content's migrated over?
That will be a later thing. This will largely just be the user interface, primarily the new homepage, as well as a couple of, you know, draft board pages, I believe. So that way you can get a sense for how the new website is going to look and feel. In September, I believe, we will get the actual, you know, this is the revised rough draft that we can play with that'll have everything. And then we can make final recommendations before we do the actual site launch.
So
How much reorganization, restructuring of the whole scheme of it is there? For example, planning board has a particular structure in its area, and I'm wondering if that will survive as is, or because you'll have different tools, I guess.
So do you mean on the front end or the back end? I don't entirely understand the question.
I mean, I want to go into the website and find out stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so how I get to find it, and is it there in a way that I think is helpful?
Gotcha. So there will be some changes. All of the information will still be there. We're going to largely try to take things like meeting minutes, agendas, and add them to the document center. So all of those are in one place, broken down by department, board, or committee. But things like, say, site plans and things that the planning department specifically will use will still be on that page, on the planning department's page.
Yeah, well, it's more than a page, but yeah. There's a large repository there. I want to be able to go there and find out how I voted on something about 12 years ago. And we don't have that one. But I'd like it to be as easy as possible to figure out whether it is there. That's one of the sort of historical record kinds of places. Because somebody else questions come up. What was the decision on that back in 07?
Yeah. I don't anticipate losing any of the meeting minutes from the past.
Yeah, well, it's more than that. We have the whole, the whole record of hearings, all of the documents and so on. That's actually sort of necessary because I think you're supposed to have all of that, not just what the decision references 100 submissions.
Mhm.
You can find all that under a project, it's organized by project and so on. I'll have to see when.
Yeah, I think, it's certainly sort of an obvious, as a minimum, we're expecting all the information that's currently on the website to be carried over to the new design. And I get the impression, William, that that's basically I think you've said that's part of the overall plan is to, carry over all the information. The interesting question from a web design perspective is access, finding the information that you need. I mean, call it the one of the terms of art in the UI business is the information architecture. Starting at the home page of the of the website, how does a person go about finding what they're looking for? And sort of the generic sort of search function is useful to a point if you happen to know the right search terms to put in. But it's probably fairly typical that there, for different people searching for different reasons, there's more than one way to get to a particular piece of information, depending on how you're approaching it, what you know about what you're looking for. That's sort of at the forefront in my mind as to how the new website is going to make it easier for various folks who are coming there for various different reasons to find what they're looking for. It's not enough that it be there. There's a lot of stuff I know is there because I know how to find it, but I'm hard pressed to give anybody else directions to get to, if you don't happen to know, for instance, going back to Bob's perspective on, the documents that are relevant to us as planning board. I mean, we work with this stuff long and hard enough that we pretty much know where to find what we're looking for. Although even there's a certain class of documents there that I know they're there, but it's not easy to find because the organization of the web pages doesn't help to get me there. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot that I'm going to be looking for along those lines. Is the various capabilities to find what people are looking for.
Right. Yeah, and I think that a lot of what you two are talking about is kind of rolled into why I asked about the when we'll be able to leverage or be able to do a proof of concept on the actual search engine, because I think that, most people agree that the website in its current state is very unfriendly to people who are not familiar with finding that information. And the way that the current search engine works, it gives you complete garbage oftentimes when you're looking for information. And so in my opinion, having a good user interface on the website is great, but without a doubt, the most important thing is that if someone wants to go in there and find out what they need to do to get permits for building a deck or whatever it is, it should be pretty no-brainer for even for people who have very little computer experience. And so that's the part that I am feeling the most interested in looking at when it's available in September, because I think that part right there is really the make or break for this migration is, in my opinion, considered successful or not.
Right. That's more or less exactly my concern. I don't know when I have ever been successful using the search function on the current site. It's useless. You know, yeah, I think there used to be a way to get Google to do its smarts on your on your site so that you could do Google style searches. That's
Yeah.
so much better. You know, I don't even have to get the spelling right, which I never can.
License.
Yeah, like Google changed that to where you have to have a it's not a free thing these days, but also Google is heavily limited if you don't have your content curated. I know a big part of this migration has also been about curating the data in a way to have, like what we talked about last month, was having tags or metadata or such within the content that then the searches can leverage to put weight on the search results to provide a smarter choice back. With what we have currently, just like what we have on the website right now is just literally people take real documents, scan them in and upload them, which is from a technology standpoint very archaic. So I think even Google search with what we have today wouldn't work very well. So this is a lot more to me than just the website update.
So William, I think I remember you've said that this this update is utilizing some various capabilities offered by Civic Plus that we don't currently take advantage of on our existing website. So there's some new stuff, basically some new capabilities that Civic Plus is offering that we're trying to leverage here.
Correct. So a lot of what the new proprietary software they're using will do is it'll help with ADA web compliance. So a lot of the tools that they have added, will help when we are updating content, when we're writing articles, when we're putting images in, when we're uploading documents. It will help make sure that the content we build is ADA compliant. And Alan, just getting back to what you were saying.
Really presentation.
I'm sorry?
I said ADA compliant is purely about presentation, right? Size of fonts, color palettes, high contrast. It has nothing to do with the curated data elements.
Yep. So it is a lot of the stylizing and how you write things. I found out there's a tool that will help you, instead of putting for more information, click here, which is something I find myself doing all the time. Right. It will help you write something a bit more descriptive. So, for more information on the permitting process, or more information on the permitting process can be found here. So that way people know what they're going to before they click the link.
Yeah, well, they want to use the voice to text also, right? For nerd folks. So, but William, I was more curious, kind of rolling all this stuff up to a higher level. Do they have an approach or methodology that they use as standard? How do they do this? Have they shared that with you? Not just like a project schedule, like with this bunch of tasks, but something more meaty as to what what their value is.
Yeah, scope of work or whatever, right? So is that
we do have a scope of work that was given to us before we started the process that includes the quote, what they were going to do, things of that nature, but they didn't provide any sort of perspectives on methodology or anything like that.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of this would be laid out, right? And that's where we would be looking to them for value add, right? And and as opposed to us go and hire some high school kids to do all this stuff, right? Where we, are trying to leverage the vendor to build something that's, evolutionary, right? And not just same as the old, but, right?
Right. So I'm making a note right now. I'll email our contacts tomorrow and see if anything like that can be provided. I don't know if they have it, but it can't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Bob, you're kind of asking a little bit along the lines of, are we just taking this data and sticking it into a shell that also does these fancy features, or are they adding value such as web page curation and like intelligent?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So are they providing a service as far as well, like professional services type to this project as well, or are they just taking the data and stuffing it into a shell, basically?
And then I'd like to understand like the process, user acceptance, right? How do we go through and like all the stuff Mr. Hassinger or Mr. Robbins is looking for, right? Is it up to them to click through and find and, locate the gaps, or do they have automated tools and test methodologies to go ahead and do that? Because that's usually how it's done, right? It's not like, oh, we think we got it all, and why don't you guys take a look and click around and see what you can find? No.
Like an audit.
Anyone want to make any bets? What are the odds here?
Test scenarios, test scripts, right? And automated tests to do all this.
Well, it should be pretty. So, I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate and say that should be pretty straightforward for anyone as part of them migrating it to run an audit of what was on the old site and that it got carried over and is accessible via the web service. And I think I would hope if they're not doing that at the minimum, then I have severe concerns. But I'm hoping they go, like what you were saying a second ago, beyond that and not just saying, okay, is all the data there, but is it also being indexed by the search engine in a way that's reasonable, logical, and empowering users to find that data? Like what is happening to that data besides just being migrated over?
And fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, one small comment on content. It's been bugging me sort of for years, is that too many of the PDF documents are uploaded as images, and I can't search the text of the documents.
Amen.
Yeah, there's that.
And that's probably part of the accessibility as well. If you, for example, are someone who uses a screen reader, your screen reader is not going to do well on a PDF image of a text document. So hopefully that what we currently tend to upload as PDF images of text documents,
Exactly.
We can end up getting those uploaded in a searchable text form.
Yeah, there's no reason to have that in 2022. Images of clickable links is kind of ridiculous this day.
I battled this with Ann Morgan and the whole process. Ann felt, and whoever was deciding felt, for example, that agendas had to be images, because they had to have the stamp on them from the clerk. And it was useless. And everybody puts up agendas with Zoom links, but you can't click them. That's in town hall. That's not out at the vendor.
So I would agree there's probably some requirement to have the proof of the document that the agenda was officialized, stamped, and all. That doesn't mean that has to be what's published for the Zoom links. I mean, you can have the version where it has clickable links as the ones that's put onto the calendar. I mean, I understand the reason why you want to keep a document, official document, with a seal for records, for official records. That makes complete sense to me. But there is ability to do things beyond that for users to be able to get this stuff easier,
including electronic date stamps.
Well, I think that this was a previous clerk.
Yeah.
I think that maybe I infer that the clerk's job now, since the law has changed about posting meetings, what the clerk puts on the web is supposed to be the same content as what the clerk has always posted in an accessible place in town hall. And those are the ones where she stamped them with when they came in. So if you're going to do one legal posting that satisfies, now you have to do it both in town hall, and in our case, we chose the web as the second way to 24/7 access.
Is that a legal requirement that they have to be the same in both places?
You have to deliver the same I think that someone looking at the legal posting needs to be able to tell about when it was filed, which is
This-
you know, it's going to be 48 hours before blah blah blah, all that.
I mean,
Anyway, I suspect that's where the idea came from. In those days, doing this once is more than we want to do. Forget about doing it twice. But can't you? Isn't there a way that they could use in town hall that scans the images or somehow gets back from images to searchable text?
there are tools that can do that type of thing. I don't know that they're necessarily foolproof, but that might be one of the examples of what Bob's comment earlier about what value added comes from Civic Plus. Do they have the ability to do that type of thing as well? I think it would be perfectly reasonable for a calendar post that references the stamped agenda to have in the calendar post the link for it or such. I mean, there has to be some way. With technology, we can cross this hill without breaking the law. So I don't know what the legal requirement is, and I definitely don't want anyone to change things in a way that'll get the town in trouble if that's the case.
Right.
But there are ways to provide an agenda with a link that people can share on Facebook or other social media sites to help get attention for meetings and committees and such that's out there.
There's a topic for further exploration here. I have seen evidence of the capability to electronically stamp the document, considering that most of the documents are received by the clerk's office via email. If there was an electronic stamp that would suffice, that basically can be added to the PDF as it is received. It can then be printed for posting on the bulletin board and posted to the website, retaining the original PDF document, but just with a layer added for the date stamp. I've seen that done, and I don't remember just where I've seen it, but it is possible.
DocuSign does that.
But this extends way beyond that, like in the planning board case.
Yeah,
All the documents that are posted up there, you know, they get scanned much more than they get put up as PDFs. Anyway.
anyway, we don't need to.
It was always about cost, I think,
Yeah.
and also I already have a full-time job. Don't bother me with.
Yes, now I think, yeah, we don't need to beat this to death tonight, but just, you know, suffice it to say that that's an issue, and we do need to explore technological solutions to that should such be possible.
Yeah, I would say it's fair that after the search engine issues or searching issues, that may be, if not the next, or like one of the next biggest complaints that I see often from people is the ability that oftentimes people join these meetings in cars on their phones, and it's unreasonable to ask them to type in something like that. Just having a button to click on their phone makes more sense. So, Dave, I don't know if you noticed that I see we have an attendee that has a hand up also.
Yes, I'm thinking that our attendee who has his hand raised and has been waiting patiently may have a comment on the website. If the committee is willing, I would allow this attendee to join the meeting for the moment to speak without objection. Okay. Steve P., you are in the meeting.
Yes, hello, my name is Steve Paler. I live at 3 High Point Drive in North Grafton, Mass. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to say that I appreciate what this IT committee board is doing. There are a couple of things that I could definitely raise that you've discussed here this evening based on the website. The last point that you were talking about with the documents with it stamped, I also have seen in other towns, I can't really off the top of my head name them, but they do have a way to electronically stamp them when they're added to the town's website. The reason that I say that is because if you had a document that was say, put on the agenda or the actual official town minutes that were taken for, say, even this meeting, select board meeting, planning board, whatever, it's stamped when the town clerk is, when the town clerk actually accepts them, which makes them at that point the legal minutes for that meeting. If you didn't have that, so is a case that I actually did a FOIA request for town minutes that were missing, and they came through as draft, which is fine, and I expect that they will be certified by the boards as is, but it still has to be stamped by the town clerk to be official town minutes. So I could see that someone for a legal case, say, might have an issue with for that part, which I think that it's great. It's great to have that if it was all in one. Otherwise, if you didn't have that, then people like myself would be bothering Candy nonstop for the actual legal document with the timestamp. When was it received? When we do a FOIA request, Candy sends a stamped, basically an email to us that says exactly when our request was received, and basically at that point the clock starts for, in most cases it's 10 days for a request for meeting minutes. So I kind of think that definitely needs to be something that whatever is looked into. So my questions prior to that were, will both websites be up and operating at the same time just as a backup in case, or is it going to be okay, I see Mr. Hassinger shaking his head no. So I assume that you're going to can the website that I have spent the last year and a half learning to find the meeting minutes and the packets and go to the new website all at once. Is that how you see this happening?
So we will get, like I said, the more polished rough draft of the website with everything they've done. At that point, that version won't be live. The old website still will be. We'll be able to make any final tweaks, upload any final documents that we may need, things like that. But when the new site goes live, the old site will be taken down.
Okay, I understand that. Maybe as an idea, to maybe have the regular Joe guy, like maybe not even me, because I'm probably not the best candidate because I'm computer illiterate, but maybe people in the town, residents that do surf the website, to try to utilize the new website in the beta version to see if they could navigate that and maybe make requests on things that might be easier or don't work for them.
Yeah, actually, that's something that last month, Bob Hassinger and Dave both asked Evan as well, the same type of thing. That the comment was that there are probably very interested people in town as well that would be interested in participating in a like a pre-beta for the new site, similar to what Steve here is saying.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't watch last last month's meeting. The workable PDF file. I'm actually not really. I can't work that. I don't know why. I just can't work that. So I do actually print out all the minutes or agendas and skim them that way. Unfortunately, I'm not technologically advanced or whatever like you guys are, but it seems like if there was maybe a tutorial on how to use that information on the website might be helpful.
That's sort of it's an interesting. There's a couple of interesting ideas that are coming up here. One is for so before we commit to rolling out the new website, to have several people, maybe even people representing sort of different levels of skill or different levels of interest to work with the new website design and kind of give us a critique of this works well, this doesn't work well, that sort of thing. Beyond that, it's perhaps sort of along with rolling out the new website, if it turns out to be feasible, we could put together some sort of a tutorial, whether it's a document or a video or something like that, to sort of highlight here's how you use the new website, maybe even here's how it's different from the old, to whatever extent we can come up with something. I mean, this is the sort of thing that I think is easier said than done, given that there's so many different kinds of information on the website and so many different reasons that people go to the website. That yeah, at some
Yes,
point
yeah,
as we get into the rollout process, and even after we we release the new website, I think uh, continuing to work on it, evolve it, help people understand how to use it, how to find what you're looking for. In some cases, it's just, well, you can't tell just by looking at it, but with a little bit of instruction, yeah, you can figure out how to use it.
Is there any chance
yes.
that, sorry, is there any chance that we can have some, like even something along the lines of Bob Totoma doing like sessions that can be saved on their YouTube channel as far as walkthroughs on how to do common tasks on the new website?
Yeah,
But
something to
I
think about.
But I mean, I think that the comment that was made earlier that, you know, some of the more technical minded people in town may be interested, but I think there's value actually in having the lesser technical people in town using it, because that's actually the bigger concern, making sure that we can have the content available easily for everybody, regardless of their technical capabilities. So I think there's value in that. And I think Bob has his hand up, I see.
Experienced UX people will tell you that's very important, is to get a to get a wide variety of your user community, different skill levels, different interests involved. And yes, Bob Carroll's got his hand up.
I guess just two things. One is, so that harkens, all this comes back to the methodology and approach, right? And the website needs to be and fulfill certain requirements. And those requirements need to be, enumerated and spelled out and defined. And then when the proof of concept, or typically it's a dev or a test or a pre-prod, however we want to call it, site, then we go and test against that and either certify the results or not. And usually then if it gets to users, there's a series of test scripts, right, with specific tasks that are measurable, repeatable, that different users would walk through and try to duplicate. So that's where I think, it's just the click and happenstance and serendipity play a part in all of this. There needs to be some organization structure. And William, if you need help on this, just let us know, because we've all done this a million times. We could probably furnish you with results or help you with that. The other thing is, which is kind of in the weeds a little bit of departure, is the PDF and the executing documents. So DocuSign is one of the technologies, and that's used, we use it all the time to execute contracts. And I won't go into how it works and all, but there's a cost involved with that. But I think that's what you guys are all referring to. And then there would have to be some policies and modifications in the town to speak to that and accommodate that. But it's pretty ubiquitous, and I've implemented it at the state level and large municipalities in past lives. So it's not a big deal. It's not super hard, but it is different.
Yeah, in a sense, the questions of the date stamps and the PDF documents is almost orthogonal to the website design. It relates because ideally all PDF documents on the website should be fully text searchable.
Right.
But I mean, even if we weren't changing the website, we could easily have this discussion about searchable PDFs and date stamps and all that stuff.
Well, we could do that. It's usually, as they say in IT, crawl, walk, run, right? We start with changing the website over and then do this other, DocuSign or whatever in the future sometime, right?
Yes, exactly. I think, I wouldn't want the issue of date stamp documents to derail the overall website redesign.
Right.
So I actually have a question for William. from some of the previous conversation about the sites being parallel, where the old one will be live until the new one's ready. I know that in previous discussions, the content on the old site is frozen in a sense that anything that's added afterwards has to also be manually added to the new site. How is that being handled from a logistical standpoint, as far as what is the effect on things such as minutes and agendas and such being updated to the website in a timely fashion? Are they being added to both, or how is that going to work during this parallel freeze period?
Good
So
question.
what was that?
Good question.
Oh, so we got the word from Civic Plus that freeze started for us on July 15th. So pretty much any calendar invites, newsroom announcements, things like that we post after July 15th, they aren't going to carry over. We have been coordinating with our departments and the boards and committees to track everything that gets added to the website after that date. So that way, when we do get our hands on the site before it goes live, anything that doesn't get uploaded, we can quickly throw up there and be good to go.
So it's up to each individual board and committee and department to keep track of everything that they upload and make sure that it makes it to the new site, and if not, to re-upload it. I'm understanding that correctly. I mean, is there any other check that's being done by Civic Plus or such to look at files that are newer than a certain date before the server goes down, to just do an audit check of those files or to pull those files or anything along those lines?
Nope, anything after July 15th, we're going to have to upload to the new site ourselves.
Yeah, danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah, I am
Yeah.
concerned about that. I mean, there are very simple ways to make sure that that doesn't bite you. Primarily, like things like I was talking about, you can easily look at date stamps on uploads and such, and make sure that even if it's not Civic Plus, even if it's something that we have to do, whatever, but before the site is decommissioned, to pull all that documents down and verify by hand, by script or whatever, that stuff does make it. Because if we rely on each board committee and such, I have a very strong, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I have a very strong hunch that someone's going to miss something somewhere along the way.
I
Quality will
can
be
see
variable.
an observation from past experience here. When we made the transition from the previous version of the website to the current version, there was a period of time, it may have been only a couple of days, but I can remember seeing an agenda on a Friday. The agenda for the Monday planning board meeting went missing on the website. Ultimately, that was corrected, but it can happen, and it probably will happen. And I suspect that we would feel much more comfortable if there was basically an automated means of ensuring that the documents on the new website represent the complete set of documents that were on the old website. From a technological point of view, depending on how those documents are organized, it should be pretty straightforward. You should be able to automate that. Because at the point of cutover, the set of documents should be identical within the limits. Maybe there is some stuff that was deliberately not transferred, but if care had been taken to identify and track everything that did get transferred, and without trying to get into an excruciating amount of detail, it seems to me like it ought to be possible, and I would sort of expect Civic Plus to have the tools available to manage a transition from one version of the website to another, and ensuring that everything got carried forward. I would be, I don't know if the word is surprised or disappointed to learn that Civic Plus cannot in fact do that for us.
Yeah, the industry term, William, is Delta data. That's what it's usually referred to as. And they should have, again, in their approach and methodology, how they absolutely tie this out with automated tools. And it's, almost every website that is in production has this, or even software tools or pretty much any application has this use case. So it's the fact that they're making us track this with pencil and paper is very much of concern.
What is the overlap plan? How close to the cutoff time, and the cut over time? When relative to that, will the departments be able to start populating their material on the new version?
Let me pull up my calendar and I'll see what the target date is.
While William looks for that, I suddenly am reminded about last month when Evan says that he's not going to give William any warning before coming to this meeting. I think William's never going to want to come join us again.
So September 20th is the day that I have in my calendar for our initial meeting with the new website. So it's looking about 8 weeks.
I'm trying to look at how likely it is that the new site will be fully populated on cutover day. Does anybody understand what I'm trying to say?
I think you are. I think I understand what you're trying to say. Like, so when we go live with this new site, it's going to be missing roughly 2 months of data that has to then be populated. So you're asking, when do the boards and committees? So we're hearing that boards and committees and departments have to manually make sure that that stuff gets uploaded back to the new site. And so based on when the different committees are going to have access to be able to start uploading this stuff versus when the site goes live, you're going to have that period of time where you have a live site that's missing 2 months worth of legal documents that should be there, basically. Is that what you're asking, Bob? I think that's what you're asking.
Well, more or less, yeah. I want to see if being able to upload from the departments comes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, before the cutover, the department should be able, they should be able to post in parallel, on both sites through that window, so that it's under control.
So I think that right there, that what your statement there, I understand where you're going with. And I think that alone highlights the issue that we're having with them forcing us to be responsible for this in the first place, because now you have multiple different people going multiple different directions with stuff, and someone in a group of people supposedly having the ownership of making sure that that content is there, where this can all be solved with a very standard typical approach for migrations, where when you have a freeze period, but then prior to the go live, you do a final pull of that stuff, and then as you move stuff like the Delta data, like what Bob Carroll was talking about. And so because they're not doing that, you open yourselves up for all kinds of gymnastics here you're having to deal with to try to get stuff updated, and it just is asking for human error here.
Yeah, that's fraught with risk.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I would say that, I mean, at a minimum, even if the vendor is not going to do it or it's not within our scope, that there should be one accountable party within the town that's responsible for moving those things, rather than, 15 boards and committees of volunteers being asked to do that. Right. That's just my take on it, is that there should be one point of accountability, and that person most likely should be a town employee versus a large group of people that are not necessarily, legally bound to be doing this stuff, right?
One thing that I heard that concerns me is also they're expecting us to take, again, for the sake of discussion here, we'll call it the Delta data, to take the Delta data and manually stuff it and put it back with manual methods upload it? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, we would be uploading it the same way we're currently uploading everything.
No. That is not how this is done.
Well, it is at a certain level. You know, we're trying to do this through services that are not as expensive as some others. I think that's fundamentally what's happening there.
This is a pretty low expense bar here.
You know, the people who do the posting have a stack of stuff on their desk. This is, I'm imagining, they have a stack of stuff on their desk that they have to upload, and they upload it. You keep the stack. Don't put it away in the file. And then when your 2-week window, when you can upload to the new site, take the file and do it. And up until the last day, post on both with each thing that comes by you. That's not the way it ought to be, but I think that's the way it's going to be, right? Well,
that is my impression from all of my discussions with Civic Plus. You've given me a lot of information that I hadn't considered.
yeah.
So I certainly have questions to ask.
The pushback, because the way it should work is,
if I could finish, I'll gladly take all this back and ask Civic Plus what we can do if we can change the scope of work to move the date up of all the documents that we're uploading. I just don't have the answer at this present moment.
Now, somebody went through and identified all of the documents that were to be transferred from the old site to the new site on that freeze date. Somebody went through and identified, listed all those documents, or had some way of enumerating the documents that were to be transferred. Would it not be feasible to redo that enumeration as of the actual cutover date, or very, very close to it? Basically just to sort of to repeat that transfer. I
think we have to give William a chance to
well, I mean, I think that gets back to what Bob was talking about with the Delta data of what's different from the first time they did it to the
way
second.
This works, right, in the real world, right,
In the real world
is, on a Friday, everyone does their usual jobs the way they've always done it. They just keep rolling along, uploading data in the background, in the pre-prod environment. We're looking at new stuff. We're making changes. We're giving them the test results back. We're giving the input feedback. Then whatever the date is, usually on a Friday, everything stops. There's a refresh. Again, this is all done at the database level and with scripts. So it's all automated and happens literally within, I can show you the lists from outside examples how this all works. And then poof, the next day, the new site's up, everything's there, it's ready to go. They flip the DNS, they flip the switches, and you're off to the races. There's none of this nonsense.
well,
from what it sounds like, based on, once again, we don't necessarily know their methodology and how they're doing this, but from what it sounds like and what William has said, my assumption, again, granted, this is my assumption based on what's been said, is that they've taken a site backup as of June 15th or July 15th, and they are using that as their import that they are then modifying to fit in their shell for their web interface or their database that they're using for their environment. I'm not even sure what they're using for a database to store this data. And so there's some sort of conversion or refiling or whatever they're doing with that data that makes it expensive for them to then go back and reperform the same task with the entire thing at the end, in the middle of September. And so the concept of Delta data, which is a very, like that's how backups work, right? You don't take everything and back it up every single day. You take just what is the differential of what's changed. But the concept of that doesn't work here for them because of the methodology that they're doing. And so since we don't have that methodology, I'm just making assumptions that they have some limitations here. But even that said, there are many different ways, even through scripts or other means, to still go and do that type of thing with the data, like pull stuff by dates and such to even populate it that way. And it, like Bob was saying, it's very common for, depending on the size of the migration, for on a Friday at business close, saying that application is going to be unavailable for the next X days, 2-3 days or whatever, a day, depending on the size of the data, and that it will be back up live on Monday or Tuesday. And if it's not live for 1 day or so, it's not the end of the world. And it's usually scheduled around a time that's not mission critical. But 8 months is about the extreme end of what I've ever seen for, I can't think of one that's not 8 months, 8 weeks. I can't think of one that's been an 8-week freeze period. Like, honestly, like in my experience.
Yeah, that's just not, it's not a good way to approach this sort of thing. And yeah, I think I would sort of at this point, you know, William has, I think, a very good sense of what we're worried about here. And you know, William, I think, has enough information to reach out to Civic Plus and find out what their capabilities are, what their capabilities aren't, and ultimately, hopefully, to find a way to narrow this gap where we could potentially lose information inadvertently.
Well, if you get jammed up, again, just send an email to the, you know, IT committee, send it to our distribution list, and we'll help you out, William.
Yeah, gladly.
Yeah, if you know, if you need more from this committee to help you know, explain or even to meet with Civic Plus or however, you know, you get a good sense that we're all interested in making this transition work.
Mhm.
I mean, sort of, yeah, and there's a couple of levels here that we've been talking about. This, you know, this level that we've just been talking about is all about, you know, preserving all the information and avoiding any information loss, whether even it would probably be unintentional, but nevertheless, we're looking for ways to completely avoid that. And then back to some of the earlier parts of our conversation, we're thinking more in terms of the design of the new website, in terms of the user interface and the information architecture. So that's a whole nother concern. That's orthogonal to what we've just been talking about. But as you can tell, it's a topic of interest to many of us.
William's just never going to speak to me again at select board meetings from now on.
No, I'm happy to still talk to all of you.
Oh,
You know, again,
We can fix that.
So I know I really do appreciate you coming on to speak with us about this. And like what Dave was just saying, I think we're all very passionate about that. This web page is the technological face of the town of Grafton. And in some cases, there's been a lot of blemishes for a while. And so we all have pretty, strong desire that it's something that can be improved in a way that makes the town look better and makes the town work better and such. So I know I truly appreciate you coming here to talk through some of these plans and get beat up by us a little bit on some of these questions. I am going to be interested in seeing what Civic Plus answers for some of these things that you go back to them asking about. I'd love to hear what their responses are.
Yeah.
And looking farther ahead, even after we've rolled out the new website, I'm sure that there will be opportunities for continued feedback from our user community, all the stakeholders really. And I'm sure it would be good for us, as in the whole town organization, William, you and Evan as administration, really everybody else, to continue to find ways to get more feedback from the people who try to use the website. And because I'm sure there's room for sort of continuous improvement, presumably within the overall framework that we're going to be getting. There will probably be ample opportunity to tweak it and tune it and continue to improve it to make the information more accessible to our user community.
One last thing.
Yes.
Responsive. The website needs to be responsive, and it needs testing and validation on phone, tablet, PC, and then the different OSs, whether it's, Android, Apple OS, Windows, Unix, whatever, right? And the browsers. Yep. So across the whole spectrum.
If I can say on that particular topic, the current version of the website is more responsive than the previous version was. It's not perfect, but it does a better job than the old one did in adapting to tablets and phones. But there is further room for improvement. There's one aspect of it on my iPad that I find really annoying, but like I said, it's better than it used to be, but it can be more.
William, can you confirm something or whatever that we spoke with Evan about last month regarding that topic, in the sense that is there going to be a mobile website? Is there going to be a mobile page that detects mobile clients and sends them to a mobile friendly page, or are they going to be offered up the desktop page on their mobile devices?
So that is something that we have discussed with Civic Plus. Off the top of my head, I cannot find the documentation. I believe that there will be a phone-friendly version of the website, as that ties into ADA accessibility.
But if the website is using a framework that's truly responsive, Alan, it should pick that up.
So should and does are pretty important.
So tomorrow I will look through all the documentation I have from Civic Plus, and I'll see if I can find where we discussed it.
Right, but that if you say it needs to be truly responsive, it's inferred that it does that. So if they answer yes, then okay, it needs to do this.
And there are, just to be, I don't know what the word is. I should point out that sometimes particularly the mobile version of the website is so very different from the desktop or even the tablet version in terms, because thinking around the screen sizes and the various sort of interactions that are most effective on mobile. Responsive, it has to be. Sometimes it's a major difference between the desktop and the mobile website.
Yeah, you need to be able to get the same data just in a mobile friendly fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, your interaction style with the mobile is very different from desktop and from tablet. There's sort of roughly 3 very different styles of user interaction that you have to accommodate.
That's where the user acceptance comes in, right? Whether it's acceptable, the way it's presented to us.
Yeah. So there's a lot. William's got a lot to think about here. And now you're going to have to work extra hard with it, or get Civic Plus to work extra hard.
William already works extra hard.
Yeah.
Just get us to do it. We'll do it. Have them come to the meeting and we'll ask them all these questions.
Yeah, we have no problem asking questions of vendors.
Yeah, we're pretty good at that.
I wonder if there's an opportunity to build feedback into the website, because I know that at least in my professional life, a lot of our websites will have a feedback button at the bottom of each page, right? So if you have a problem with a specific page, you can post it. But maybe that's too high budget for town website, where we're paying kind of like on an a la carte basis to have things changed or fixed.
Well, a very minimal approach to that is just the traditional send comment link to webmaster at Town of Grafton email address, whatever, but for any questions or comments about that. And you can, it's pretty trivial to have a comment field box that you can actually do that just populates an email form that sends it to that mailbox or whatever. So I think there's pretty affordable ways of doing that if we're not.
Remember, guys, this is Civic Plus. That used to be open text, right? That used to be something else before. And they host, I don't know what it's kind of like our finance package, right? Like all the towns use them. And it's all hosted in the same thing, and the data is all commingled. And it, so they're not like building anything for Grafton. They're tweaking some, values in a sheet somewhere or a database to give us some colors and some fonts and stuff. But it's not going to be much of a departure from their framework.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we couldn't possibly be the first town to ask for a feedback function, right?
Yeah,
There may be one in there.
The first thing you need is a webmaster to send it to.
That's right.
I'm absolutely serious.
No, I know you're right, because if it goes to webmaster, who is that? You're right.
Yeah, well, the point, more to the point, someone who functions as the webmaster and who has a handle on the overall site and pulling things together. The closest we ever had was Ann Morgan, and she wasn't even, able to come close.
Mhm.
But you need that function. You need a person who has that as their job before all of this will work. And then that person can go around and make sure that the PDFs are being done the way we want, and get whatever needs to get begotten and so on. And I think that's where William and Evan need to think about it.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing that first draft that William promises to have out to us next week, if I remember right. Looking forward to seeing that and beginning to get a feel for what it's going to look like beyond what we can describe here in this meeting tonight. So anything else, William, you want to bring to our attention on this topic?
No, I think we've pretty well covered it. Again, we have our next meeting next week. So we'll hopefully have some more information then, and hopefully I'll have some answers to some of your questions in the next couple of days.
That would be good. Anything else from the committee for William? Well, if not, thank you very much, William, for taking the time to meet with us. And we look forward to continuing these conversations and seeing a much improved website.
Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to stop by. If you think of anything else, shoot me an email. Happy to take a look.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, William.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
You all have a good night.
You too. And we have one more item on our agenda.
I move that we approve the draft, the minutes as drafted.
I second.
And I would suggest a couple of minor changes to the minutes as drafted.
And then I'd like to change my motion to include minor changes as we discuss.
Yes, so at the bottom of the first page, there is a bullet item that says, Mr. Robbins believes that there may be a large number of people in the town that hold interest in helping with feedback on website usability and design. I don't think I use the word large, but other than that, it's an accurate statement. And I wouldn't want to characterize it as I believe there are a large number. I believe there are people in town, but I wouldn't characterize it as a large number.
All right. So we'll remove large. So Mr. Robbins believes that there are people in town who, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And then the second bullet item under exhibits, the updated IT support services draft RFP was not authored by me. I think you probably say it was authored by Evan and William.
Yep, my mistake. Apologize. I believe it's Evan who submitted it to us, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although William had a hand in it as well, but yeah, I would say it's authored by Evan. And other than that, I didn't see anything in the minutes to complain about.
Yeah, I got off much easier than William did.
Yeah. Well, Bob can tell you from the years we've spent on planning board that I'm often the one that finds the nits in the planning board minutes and other documents.
No, I think that's important. I mean, these are legal documents, so I appreciate that feedback. Just for process standpoint, so when we make the changes to that, and how do we do you take care of submitting it? Do I take care of submitting it, or like the modified version, or how does that work?
Yeah, the simplest thing to do would be for you to update the Word document, export it as a PDF, and then send the PDF to the town clerk's office.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe there's a motion on the floor.
Well, we got to vote on the minutes first.
Oh,
Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll put this to a vote. Mr. Carroll,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
and Mr. Baker.
Aye.
And Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously.
Will we adjourn?
Again.
Moved and seconded that would be adjourned. Mr. Carroll,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Baker,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. We are adjourned.